vacation.
Every day seems like a Friday these days, I think.
Okay, Mr. Chavez, we are now live.
Okay, good. Okay, folks. Good morning. We are on the record. My name is Stephen Chavez, the city's land use hearing officer. Today's date is November 20th,
Mr.
2020.
Chavez?
Yes.
I can't hear. Somebody's got some loud background going on, like shuffling.
I hear the same thing. Folks, if you can stop moving your things around, because every time you move an item on your desk, it makes noise. If you can, or lower your volume as well, that might help too. Okay?
Would you start over, please?
The sound is gone, so I'll get started again. Today's date is November 20th, 2020. This is a quasi-judicial appeal hearing from a decision of the ZHE, the Zoning Hearing Examiner. The number is AC-20-13. Now, this is a time-sensitive appeal, and this hearing is being conducted remotely via video and audio conferencing because we're still under public health orders. If you need to speak or make an objection during this hearing, please unmute your audio on the Zoom program, not on your computer device. That's the only way it'll work, okay? This hearing is being open to the general public to watch on the city's YouTube channel as it is occurring, I believe. And this hearing is also being recorded by Miss Rebecca Fella, who is a certified court reporter. So there will be a transcript of this hearing as well, an official transcript. Beginning with the appellant, please make your appearances for the record. It's my understanding that Mr. Gallegos is represented by counsel. Is that correct? Ms. Agar?
Yes, Your Honor. This is Kathleen Agar with the Moses Law Firm representing Mr. Gallegos.
Good morning, ma'am. Mr. Gallegos, are you here?
Yes,
Okay. Your full name for the record.
Walter Gallegos,
Okay, where do you reside, sir?
3805 Glen Canyon Road, Northeast.
Okay. Ms. Agar, does Mr. Gallegos intend to testify, or do you intend to have him testify in this hearing?
He may, but I'm going to have the opening comments, but he may want to speak.
Okay, well, I'm going to swear him in then. Mr. Gallegos, please raise your right hand and let me know when it's raised.
It's raised.
Okay. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and only the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay. Now is the party opponent here, that is Mr. and Miss Segura. Are you folks here? Mr. Segura, Miss Segura?
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh, go ahead, sir. Are you Mr. Segura?
Yes.
Okay, and Miss Segura?
Yes.
Good. Good morning. Please state your full name for the record, beginning with Mr. Segura.
Philip Segura,
Thank you. Miss Segura, what is your name?
Ramona Segura.
Okay, and please state your address.
3812 Zion Court, Northeast.
Thank you. Now, I assume that you intend to testify in this hearing. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, please both of you raise your right hands so I can swear you in. Thank you. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and only the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, we do.
Thank you so much. Okay, folks, are there any preliminary matters regarding procedure or evidence in this case that we would like to take care of? I understand that Mr. Segura submitted a photograph yesterday evening. I will admit that into the record. It's late, but I'm not concerned with that. I want to make sure that the city council has all the evidence that it can see in this case without me stifling that evidence. So I'm going to allow that photograph that you submitted late, Mr. Segura, into the record. Ms. Agar, is there any preliminary matter that you would like me to take care of before we get started with the merits?
Yes, there on Tuesday, sir, there were 2 letters that were submitted via email, and they might have been a little under the 48-hour. One was from Mr. and Mrs. Lou Hoffman, and one was submitted just a couple minutes before the 9 o'clock a 48-hour deadline. We've asked for those to be included in the record also.
Okay, and I will include those into the record. There are 2 letters apparently from neighbors. And then you submitted an argument with photographs in the record, and those are all in the record for the city council, okay?
Great, thank you so much.
Any other matters that we need to take care of before we get to the merits of this appeal?
No, no, sir.
Okay, let's get started. Go ahead, Ms. Ebgar.
First, we'd like to say that the burden for the proof of burden is on the applicant, and there was nothing in the ZHE record that would even begin to approach proof that Mr. Segura had established the need and or the appropriateness of his fence. The application was missing any supporting documents, no pictures. There was a hand-drawn map that said that he needed a bigger backyard. His yard was small.
Ms. Agar, let me interrupt you a second. There's something wrong with your volume. It comes in and goes out. Can you fix that on your Zoom program? Maybe increase your volume? Okay, let's try it, because I can only hear every other word you say.
I don't actually know how to increase the volume, sir.
So go to the Zoom meeting screen, and there should be a volume on that. There's a mute and an unmute, and there should be a volume. Mr. Moya, can you give her better guidance than me? I'm with Mr. Segura on this.
I think if you were to hit the little arrow button next to your microphone, it would give
On the
you some
right-hand
options
side.
for your.
Okay. It seems to think I have headphones, but I'm going to take that off.
Yeah, take that off and go to audio settings.
Okay.
And you can, there'll be a couple of continuums that you can raise. Output volume should be at least in the middle.
They all seem to be, the test mic and everything seems to be up to the max. Is that inappropriate?
I don't know, Mr. Moya?
That might be ideal. So
Okay.
I think you're sounding a little bit better now, kind of talking. So
Agreed.
So I switched out what, I took out a speaker, and so just it's straight out of the computer. Is this better?
Much better.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
No problem. Go ahead.
Okay, so we believe that there was nothing in the record for the ZHE to make his decisions at all on the to support or defend the position of for the fence approval of the variance. The record, but in the ZHE's hearings decision, he has that there was no evidence to the contrary concerning any of the information supplied by the neighborhood. One, the owners, the applicants didn't supply any information that was requested. There was no photos presented. It was just a hand drawing. And then yet the neighbors actually appeared at the hearing, and they supplied pictures to show that this fence is wholly different than anything else in the neighborhood. There's no other fences in the front yards of any of the houses, 3 blocks down, 3 blocks up, anywhere around, not just the 330 feet radius, but even blocks and blocks of radius, the whole neighborhood. This is a unique fence. So we don't understand, and we believe that
Ms. Abgar, let me stop you there. Ms. Fella, are you picking up every word she's saying?
Yes, pretty much, yes.
Okay,
She's
good.
starting to get lower again, so if she could speak up.
Okay,
Yes.
I can speak up. So the record in the zoning hearing for the zoning hearing examiner is completely vacant for any information that would support his decision. And there was information that was, they had testimony and photos that would in opposition of his motion. And yet he stated that there was nothing in the record that would contradict what he decided. He wholly and completely ignored, I guess, the testimonies of the neighbors and the photos presented. As to the appropriateness of the fence is, we have supplied at the ZHE hearing and this particular hearing, photos that show up and down the street that there's not another fence in the front yard. There's nothing else at all like this particular fence. So the record, there's emails, there's from the neighbors, there's letters from the neighbors stating that this fence is not at all architecture, it matches the architectural characteristics of the neighborhood. The character is completely and wholly different, and it is an eyesore for the neighborhood. And as as the record is completely empty of anything that shows contrary, we don't understand how the ZHE actually arrived at his decision. They did not in any way carry their burden to demonstrate that they met any of the criteria for the IDO for a variance. It doesn't have any kind of architectural character that matches the neighborhood. It causes a hardship, which was testified to at the hearing of how the neighbors were going to be harmed by this fence. Moreover, the fence didn't follow the basic criterias for the IDO for a fence in that area. And the IDO has two different sections. It has the section that says for a variance, it has to follow these rules. This fence doesn't do that. And it also states that in the IDO in table 572, it clearly states that there's a maximum.
Let me interrupt you one more time. Okay. I noticed in your written arguments, you used the most recent IDO update rather than the IDO that was in effect at the time of the application and at the time the ZHE reviewed the application. So you're using the November 2020 update IDO, which is it has very similar criteria. It's almost identical for purposes of this appeal, but you cited the sections incorrectly. So we need to make sure that we're using the same IDO. I don't think it impacts your analysis in terms of your argument, but it certainly impacts the citation to the IDO sections that you're referencing, because the citations changed a little bit. Does that make sense for you?
Yes, thank you. I didn't realize that. I apologize.
It's okay. The application was reviewed in September of 2020. The IDO update went into effect November 2nd, I believe, 2020. And when I reviewed your argument, I looked at what you were citing to, and I said, no, that's incorrect, but maybe this. So it was apparently you were citing to the new IDO update rather than the one in effect. So we want to make sure we stick with that. So if you're citing to the IDO update, let me know so that I can cross-reference your arguments with the correct section of the IDO.
Okay. I believe that the table I don't know what the old reference to the table was that specifies the variances for the fence, but the IDO the IDO says, here are the criteria we'll look at for variance, but it does.
Design and articulation, are you referring to design and articulation?
That and the criteria that it has to match or has to be enhance the characteristics of the neighborhood architecturally. Okay. But I do believe and that the fence also must have limits. And I believe I know it's in the new IDO, and I believe it was in the old IDO that said you can put a fence up within 10 feet of the right of way. But if the fence is, without a variance, it can be 3 feet high. With a variance, it can only be 5 feet high. There is a limit. There isn't, and the zoning hearing officer or examiner approved a fence that was 6 feet high. The max that it can be is 5 feet high.
What section are you referencing so I can cross?
That's the problem. There's no way to bring up old, that's one of our struggles with the new system with the IDO and the new. I don't have a way, at least I don't believe I have a way of getting a hold of the old document. When we search online new documents, all we have is the present IDO. So the new IDO would be the table would be 5-7-2.
Okay, and you can bring up the old IDO. That's not as difficult as you might think. It just takes a little bit of finesse on the web page, but you can find it. It's in there.
So that's that's at least in the new version.
Okay, and
I'll
cross-reference it so that we don't waste time right now.
Okay, so there is a limit. If a fence is on a side yard, as this one is, abutting a neighbor for a corner lot, so it abuts the front yard of a neighbor's yard, the fence can only be at the max, even with the variance, 5 feet, if it's within the 10-foot setback from from the sidewalk. And as such, the ZHE ignored that particular issue and approved a 6-foot fence, which is beyond the maximum that was allowed to be approved.
Okay.
So that's I mean, we feel that, you know, on each of the levels of the ZHE's findings, where he would say that there was nothing in the record to support the finding, there was, you know, neighbors showed up and they testified that this does not match the architectural, does not even become close to the architectural character of the neighborhood. There was no support at all to show otherwise. And yet the ZHE wrote in his report that there was the complete opposite. So when you read through his decision, you wondered, was this the right hearing that he was discussing? Because it was complete opposite of what actually happened. The opponents presented, again, the proponents presented live testimony, they presented pictures, and the applicant presented no information. And even with, if you include the pictures that the applicants have submitted as of last night, those pictures only are pictures of his fence, and in no way supports the that he was supposed to go through and show how at least 20% of the neighborhood, or that within 330 feet, 20% of those houses would have similar front yard fences. There is not a single front yard fence within 330 feet of that property. He didn't supply pictures of houses that demonstrate 20% because there aren't any. So this fence variance should have been denied because it is not appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Anything more?
No, I don't believe so.
I'm looking at the table 5.7.1 maximum wall height in the IDO that was in effect in September of 2020, and it doesn't have a 5-foot maximum that I can see from it. But can you cite that section for me in the new IDO that you referenced? I think you referenced 5-7-1 maximum wall height.
And that would be in 141657.
Oh, it's not a table. It's a section.
No, the table is table 5-7-2.
Oh, -2. Okay. Okay. I see. Okay. I found it in the new IDO, but that's not the criteria that is relevant for this analysis. But I'm trying to cross-reference it with the criteria in the there is a 572, 10 feet from the lot line. Okay, so there is the same criteria in the IDO that was in effect at the time. And it's the same table. It's just at a different location on the IDO. Okay, thank you. Is there anything more, Ms. Agar?
We'd like opportunity to rebuttal should after the Segura speak, but yes, no.
And you certainly do have that opportunity. And I have read the entire record, certainly. Let's go to Mr. and Ms. Segura. Just one of you speak at a time, please.
Unmute yourself, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, for the information she provided there, I guess they didn't look at the appeal packet that Mr. Salas sent us. On that packet, there's 100 pages of everything in there. Evidence, pictures of the yards. I got addresses for the fences that she says they're not there. I got the buffer map from the city as far, how far I could go for these fences. Over here, we got on Blue Ridge Road and Glen Canyon Road, there's a fence right against the sidewalk. It's a corner lot. Now that's only 3 houses down from my house.
Now that's that would be 3809 Blue Ridge.
I
Yeah.
think so, yes,
Okay.
correct. Okay, and then further up, there's 3813 Glen Canyon. He's got a gate and a fence in front of his house. Now they say fence and walls. They don't say they have to be in the backyard. It
No,
says,
Mr. Segura, you're misquoting the IDO. It requires, the 20% analysis requires that there is front yard
Mr.
fences,
Chavez,
or
Mr.
walls.
Chavez, I can't hear, there's so much background noise. I can't hear you at all.
Does,
Say that.
Mr. Moya, can you mute everybody except myself and the Seguras?
Yeah, I think it's actually Mr. Segura's microphone that makes that sound every once in a while. So I just muted him, but I don't know. It seems to be an issue with his microphone on his end, but
Okay.
maybe if he can just speak and then put himself on mute when he's kind of done, and then kind of put himself back on unmute when he's ready to speak again, because it seems like the longer he leaves it unmuted, then the issue comes into play.
Okay.
It sounds like he's shuffling papers. Is he moving papers?
Let me, Mr. Segura, we can't hear you so well when you talk. You might be speaking a little too loud and you're a little too close to your computer, and you shouldn't shuffle papers when you're speaking. I apologize. These are unusual criteria, but if you can make sure you're not shuffling papers when you're speaking, I'd appreciate it.
okay. All
Could you
right,
start over on what you said? Mr.
Okay.
Chavez, I couldn't understand you.
Yeah, what I said earlier was that Mr. Segura was misquoting the IDO standard. Under the 20% rule, Mr. Segura, you are required to show that there are other walls or fences that are in front yards within 330 feet of your lot. That is, it can be anywhere within 330 feet of the boundaries of your lot. And it can go from any side of the boundary of your lot. So technically on one side, it might be 336 feet, and another side, it could be 325 feet, depending on your lot configuration. But what's required is that there be 20% of those lots have to have front yard fences or walls that exceed the height in the ordinance. You need to unmute, sir. Unmute.
Mr. Chavez, we're not installing the fence in front of our house or in front of nobody's front windows. The fence we're installing is on the side of the property, on the corner lot. Now, when we asked Susanna about the pictures that we needed to get for walls and fences, it says that anybody that had walls and fences. Well, our situation is we have a corner lot. There's 3 other corner lots here that have fences and walls. There's a house, Mr. Hoffman sent a letter yesterday. He has a wall right in front of his house. Of course, he's got the entryway to go in, but it's still a wall. The vinyl fence, they say that there's no vinyl fences in the area. 3900 Glen Canyon Road has a vinyl fence sticking out about 10 foot from their houses. Now, I don't know if they don't know what a vinyl fence looks like or not, but there's 6 properties that have walls and fences around their properties, corner lots included.
Can you tell me which properties those are so I can look at the records?
I'll give it to you right now. We got that house that's in Blue Ridge Road in Glen Canyon. That's a corner lot right there. And it's right down the street from the house.
And that was 3809 Blue Ridge Road.
Correct. And then we got 3813 Glen Canyon. Now they got a gate in front of in the side of their house. I'm not saying it's in front of their house, it's in the side, but it's a wall and it's a fence.
Can you tell me that address one more time? I didn't hear it.
3813. And that's page 49 on the appeal packet. And Blue Ridge House is on page 52. 3900 Glen Canyon has that vinyl fence sticking out of the side. Now that's on page 50. 4009 Glen Canyon Road is a corner lot, and it also has a block wall on
All
They're
the way
co-
to the side.
on their corner of their lot. It's not on the front of their windows, and our fence is not going to be in front of our windows or in front of nobody's windows. I know that you can't have a wall in front of your window if it's in front of the street. That our fence ain't going to block Mr. Hoffman's view of the street in no way, shape, or form. This fence that we're putting up here is for our safety, the safety of our property, and our privacy.
Mr. Segura, you mentioned 3. Can you mention the other 3?
Okay, did you get 3900 Glen Canyon? And then there's 4009 Glen Canyon, and that's on the corner of Glen Canyon Road and Glen Canyon Court.
Okay, you mentioned that one. So we're on number 5 now.
Okay, and right across the street from that, I don't have the address of it, there's a wooden fence right there in that corner lot.
Right
Now, I
across.
don't know, it's right directly in the corner of Glen Canyon Court and Glen Canyon Road. Those two corner houses there have fences right there. So what I'm saying here is the table 571, and it says their corner lot abutting the resident. It's got a 10-foot from the abutting line, which is the property line, we can do a 6-foot fence. Now, if we left our fence, if we left our property unprotected from the criminals driving up and down the street, where would our privacy and protection for our property would be? Now, I know Mr. Gallegos is not in favor of the fence because since the very beginning, he and I must have got off on the wrong foot. But still, he has no legal power to neglect us from having our safety and our protection for our property. We don't have no HOAs in this community, so our fences don't have to be white. They don't have to be brown. They don't have to be red. There's no homeowners association here. Nobody has to have the same garage door, white or brown or yellow. So I don't know where they're coming up with this. This fence is only for our protection, our safety, and the protection of our property. If you can see the packet, you can see our yard. It's very small. We have no yard at all, and we accept that. But we have that big lot right there, and we're doing everything we have to do to get our permits. Right now, I'm in the process of getting permits for a patio. So we're doing everything legally to get our permits to do what we have to do over here. We don't have to get.
I have a question for you, sir. When did you build that vinyl fence?
I put it up. Well, let me tell you how this came up. We bought this property, and the fence the block wall fence that was there was falling apart because it's already too old. So I got that fence removed. I called the city, the zoning department, and I asked them if I could put a temporary fence because I had dogs, and they said yes. Okay, so before I read all the information of where the legal fence went, I had already put the fence up.
When did
So,
you do that, sir?
that must have been in probably the middle of July.
2020, last year.
This year.
This
Oh,
year.
I'm sorry, this year. I'm thinking ahead of myself. Yes, okay.
We bought this property in July. So by the time we got everything done, get ready to move in here, I had to have somewhere to have my dogs. So I put a temporary fence. They told me I could do it. Of course, afterwards, they said they didn't say that, but that's what they told me. So I put it up. So I put it 7 foot over my legal point. So the variance we're asking for is just the 7 foot. Because legally, according to this table, it says I can have my 6-foot fence, 10 foot on this side of my property line. And that's fine. I'm willing to go and follow the rules. But since I already had the fence over there, I couldn't touch it because every time I touched the fence, Mr. Gallegos would call zoning, and they gave me a red tag, told me not to touch the fence, to file for a variance. So the variance I'm applying for is a 7 foot fence. That's all, 7 foot. You know, we got
What is 6 foot?
from the sidewalk to my fence, there's 9 foot on Mr. Gallego's side. On the other side, there's 8 foot. And now the pictures I sent in there yesterday, I know he's gonna say that he's having a hard time backing out of his driveway. And you can see in that picture, he's got clear view of getting out of his driveway in and out.
Mr.
Traffic-
Segura, we're going astray from the issues of this appeal. One of the issues in this appeal is the height of the fence.
Right.
It's not the distance where it's at from the boundary line. It's the height. But let me ask you a couple of questions. Is your lot, it looks like your lot is less than a half acre, but I couldn't calculate for sure.
Well, you have the survey paper on the packet.
Correct.
So that'll tell you what size it is. And the size of the fence is for our protection.
Mr. Segura, my question was, your lot is less than a half acre, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Well, you know, if I left if they didn't let me put a 6 foot fence there, you could have these criminals driving up and down the street over here, seeing what you got in your property. I don't want nobody coming into my property and stealing my stuff. This fence is also for the protection for the neighborhood. If my yard stays exposed to everybody, my property is in jeopardy, and so is theirs. Because once the criminals figure out they can get into my yard, they're gonna figure out how to get into their yard. So this fence is for our privacy, our protection, and the privacy of our property. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, Mr. Lucero, he looked at all the evidence. Apparently that lady there that just spoke didn't look at that packet. All the paperwork's in there. All our permit, we got a permit for that fence already. All the paperwork's in there. I don't know what they're looking at as far as the fences there's no fences around the
Mr.
neighborhood.
Segura, you say you have a permit for the fence. What is it? A permit for the temporary fence?
No, it's a permit for the 6 foot fence. So I could have already
Who
put
issued that permit?
Mr. Charles Mestas.
How
from
come
the
it's not in the how come that permit is not in the record?
It's not for where the fence is now.
It's not for the variance. It's for the legal point of the fence.
Okay, so you don't have a permit for the fence. You have a permit for placing a fence, but not for this fence.
For the variance. We don't
Okay.
have a permit for the variance.
Yeah, facts matter in this case. The true facts are really important to determine whether or not this appeal should be sustained. Okay, thank you. I thought that was so. Thank you so much. Is there anything else, sir?
Yes, I have something else to say. You know, Mr. Gallegos, when this house went on the market, Mr. Gallegos had the opportunity of purchasing this property. That way he could have controlled what
Mr.
happened.
Segura, that's not relevant for this appeal. The issues in this appeal are very legalistic. And I understand you're not a lawyer, and I'm trying to give you the flexibility that you deserve. But the issues in this appeal are whether or not the ZHE, the zoning hearing examiner, erred in some way in his decision. And I'd like to keep it to that rather than make it personal between you and Mr. Gallego. Because to me, it's not personal.
I hope that you take in consideration of our safety, our protection of our property and my family, my dogs, and my property and my belongings.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Ms. Agar, do you have any cross-examination questions relevant to this appeal for Mr. Segura?
I do, Your Honor. I mean, Mr. Chavez, I'm sorry. Mr. Seguro claims that he needs that fence for the protection, but wouldn't it be true
Are you asking Mr. Segura these questions?
if that's what I have to do? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
please
may I
ask
just
Mr.
make
Segura.
comments or not?
I mean, I have the authority to rephrase the question, but you're a very learned counsel, so I anticipate you'll ask correct questions that are relevant for the issues. So go ahead.
Mr. Seguro, isn't it true that if your fence was set back where it was allowed to be 6 foot high, set back where it originally was, wouldn't that afford you the same protection? It would just make your yard smaller? You need to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. Yes, it would. And I don't really mind moving my fence to the legal point. The point is, the fence is only 7 foot beyond that point. How much is 7 foot? It's not 2 miles. It's only 7 feet of property. That lot is big in that corner lot. I gotta maintain that property, not Mr. Gallegos. I
And
gotta
since it's
maintain it.
already there.
Okay, but Miss Segura, please, this isn't a time for you to debate. We have a court reporter that's trying to take everybody's, everybody who's talking down, and when everybody is talking at the same time, we just can't do that. So if you could just remain quiet until you're asked the question. Mr. Segura, you've answered the question. Let's go to the next question. Ms. Apgar.
Mr. Segura, isn't it true that your lot is not more than a half an acre?
Correct, it's not.
Isn't it true that the front lots, that the street that you live on the corner of both Zion and Glen Canyon is not a collector road? They're considered residential urban roads?
Correct, they are residential, as well as Glen Canyon Court is. It's a residential road where these other fences are located. Correct, you are right.
Isn't it true that
Street.
within 330 feet of your home, there are no other houses that have a front yard fence or wall in that whole area?
Well, I think we're
All
not,
of these abut.
all these fences here abut to the fence of the fences. We are not installing the fence in front of nobody's front yard, in front of nobody's windows.
So,
Isn't it
Mr.
true
Segura,
that
was that a yes or a no to the question?
No,
Ms. Segura, you weren't asked the question. Mr. Segura.
I will repeat the question.
Isn't it true that within 330 feet of your property, no other home has a front yard fence?
Yes, it is. Mr. Hoffman's house has a wall in front of his house, in front of his windows. It's not a complete wall, but it's a wall.
Is it a front yard fence or wall that's close to, or is it just within their normal?
Well, you're asking if
It's
a
not
pro-
outside the space for, that would require variance. It's not against the sidewalk. It's not within 10 feet of the sidewalk.
I'm not in charge of variance. I'm only trying to get a fence on my property. I don't know if his wall is in the variance part of it, the legal part of it.
I'll take that as an I don't know. Mr. Seguro, I'll take that as an I don't know. And if you don't know the answer, please just say you don't know the answer to the question. It doesn't have to be a yes or a no, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Is your fence higher than 5 feet?
Yes, it is. I think it's about 5.5 feet to be honest with you. Those panels you buy, they're not exactly 6 foot.
Is the fence within the 10-foot space between the sidewalk and 10 feet out from the sidewalk?
No, it's not.
It's not within that 10-foot space between the sidewalk and your home?
The sidewalk has nothing to do with that. My property line is my property line. My
From
property
the
line.
property,
My
from the
line-
property line, is your fence at least 10 feet to the?
Answer the question.
Excuse me. One at a time, please. I can only hear one person.
Thank you, Ms.
I
Sala.
apologize.
She's not letting me answer the question. The question is, my fence is not against the sidewalk. I already told her, it's 9 foot away from the sidewalk on one corner and 8 foot from the other side. It's not, the fence is not located.
I think you just answered the question, sir. You just now answered the question.
All right. Go ahead. What else does she want to know?
Hold on, Mr. Segura.
Did we lose her?
I don't believe I have any more questions, but I don't understand why we weren't supplied with the 100-page packet that Mr. Segura is talking about. Mr. Gonzalez and I never received that packet. They didn't receive it for the ZAT hearing, and we haven't received any of that information for this hearing.
Ms. Eckhart, I think there's a misunderstanding. Now, the packet that Mr. Segura was referencing, I believe, is the appeal packet, which is 101 pages.
We never received that packet.
Okay, so you do not have the appeal packet.
No. But we would like to point out that
Let me finish, okay, because this
Okay,
is
sorry.
important. The appeal packet includes ZHE's decision. It includes a write-up by somebody from the planning department, and it includes all the evidence that was submitted to the ZHE, including your appeal documents. And you're telling me that you do not have a copy of that packet?
I am telling you that.
Be very clear. You do not have a copy of that packet.
I do not have a copy of that packet.
Okay, because you should have a copy of that packet. It's very important. I mean, look, here's what we can do. I can continue this hearing. I'd prefer not to, but I can continue it. If you believe that it's necessary for you to review that packet, to have it before the next hearing, it's your decision, because you should have a copy of that packet. I've been doing this for 16 years. I've never, ever have had an appeal where a party has not received a copy of the appeal packet.
And I don't believe we need a continuance, but I would actually, I'm trying to understand the addresses that Mr. Seguro testified to. And because I do have questions about, or comments about some of these properties, and I want to make sure I have the right properties. We in our submission have a photo of the 3813 Glen Canyon Road property. And they do have a wall, but it is obviously well behind the 10-foot.
And Ms. Ackar, you can make a rebuttal argument. I understand there's discrepancies or disputes in how you characterize the properties and how Mr. Segura is characterizing the properties. I mean, that's an issue for me to resolve. I don't want to get into a tit for tat over that issue. But my question to you is, do you want a continuance so that you can review that packet? If so, I can give it to you. I don't think it's necessary. I think I have enough material to decide the case. But if you think that your client's rights are prejudiced as a result of you not having the appeal packet, that's a basis for me to continue this hearing.
And I don't believe we need a continuance.
Okay, so let's go to rebuttal then.
Okay, so, but I wasn't able to, when he went through his addresses, his 5 or 6 addresses,
He gave
that
me
cut
he gave us
out a
5
lot.
addresses.
I'm sorry?
He gave me 5 addresses, and I can give you those right now if you like.
I would appreciate that.
Okay. The first address was 3809 Blue Ridge. The second one was 3813 Glen Canyon. The third was 4009 Glen Canyon Road. The fourth is 3900 Glen Canyon Road. And then the fifth is not an address. He said it's the corner of Glen Canyon Road and Glen Canyon Court. Now, those are all in the record. Those are in the record, the supplement to the record that you cited, that you provided to me. So I can see what he's referring to, and I know what you're referring to. And I'll deal with that in my recommendation. But if you would like rebuttal, you have rebuttal time.
All right, thank you. We feel like Mr. Segura's claims for protection of his family and everything would have been satisfied should he have put the fence back where the original wall was. He didn't have to ask for a variance to protect his property. He's just making a larger yard. He's not, the fence is not, would have been fine if it had been left in place where the original wall was. Second, it doesn't match architecturally. He hasn't fulfilled his requirements to demonstrate that any of the properties, let alone 20% of the properties in that area, even corner lots, have similar fences or walls of that kind. He hasn't demonstrated, he's clearly, the property is not a half an acre or more. The property isn't on a collector street where he is, where there's more traffic, and so it makes more sense to have a higher wall. And the IDO requires or limits the height of the wall if it's within 10 feet of his property line. He has gone over that height. There's a 5-foot limit, and he has exceeded that. So the ZHE, the approval of the variance is, we believe.
Ms. Agar, can you hold on just 1 second? I apologize. My phone is ringing, and I honestly don't know how to turn it off. So, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, so, and I apologize, I made a mistake. I'm technically, I'm required to allow the planning department to give their take on the facts of this case. Normally, when there's a ZHE appeal, Ms. Quintana opts to not provide any testimony for the hearing, but I want to still give her the opportunity to testify in this hearing because technically it's required, and I want to make sure I do that. And I assumed that she wasn't going to testify, but that's something I should not do. Ms. Quintana, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Thank you so much. Would you like your 10 minutes of testimony regarding this case? I do have a few questions if you would be so kind to answer those questions.
It'd be my pleasure to answer.
Thank you so much. So let me swear you in, Ms. Quintana. Can you please raise your right hand?
My hand is raised.
Okay, thank you. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and only the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, so there is an argument that this street, that Zion Court and Glen Canyon Road are both local streets. That is, they are not collectors or above under the long range transportation system, the LRTS. Is that correct for me to assume?
Yes, that's correct.
So both Glen Canyon Road and Zion Court are local streets.
Yes.
Okay, good. And Mr. Segura testified that this lot of his is under 1/2 acre. Do you have anything to add to that? Is it under 1/2 acre?
It is under 1/2 acre.
Okay. And the zone that Mr. Segura's lot is in, is that a residential zone?
It is a residential zone.
I assumed it was, but I wanted to make sure. What is it zoned?
Let me find the report here.
I mean, it's not a MXM or any, it's not a mixed use zone, correct?
No, it's not.
Are you looking to determine which zone it is?
I am. I'm looking for my report. I think I'm on standby.
Is it your report of the record? Is it in the record? I didn't see a report you made from the record.
I'm certain that it's in there, but
Okay, but
quickly,
you can testify for sure that this is a residential zone, correct?
I can, yes.
I mean, I know there's a strong presumption it is, but I just wanted to make sure.
I found it. It's zoned R1C.
Okay. And R1C, that designation means what?
It's a residential zone, single family,
That's what I thought. Okay.
larger lot.
Great. Now, because I asked you questions, you are subject to cross-examination, Ms. Quintana. Mr. Segura, do you have questions for Ms. Quintana? Cross-examination questions?
Unmute yourself.
Mr. Segura? Do you
Yes.
have questions for Ms. Quintana?
No, I don't. Everything she says is correct. It's a residential area.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Ms. Agar, do you have questions for Ms. Quintana?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize for shuffling things around. Miss, I'm a little embarrassed for that. Ms. Agar, proceed.
The applicant has not, who carries the burden, has not demonstrated that this fence is required, that it meets the criteria of for variance, and it is actually over it is past the max for any kind of variance. It does not meet the size requirement under, it is not over an acre, it is not on a collector street, and no other property within 330 feet of it has a front yard wall or fence similar or at all of that kind of nature. So it fails to follow those criteria that are required for a variance. the neighborhood in general and the neighbors have added records into the record, have added evidence into the record that they strongly believe that it does not strengthen or reinforce the architectural character of the surrounding area at all. They believe it's an eyesore. Mr. Gonzalez actually believes that he has struggled with line of sight for the traffic triangles or whatever they call those things. When he backs out of his yard, it's difficult for him to see around this fence because it is so close to the sidewalk. He believes it is a hazard, and he believes because the fence is such an eyesore and it is such wholly inappropriate for the neighborhood that it is injurious to his property values and the enjoyment of his home.
Now, when I hear the term property values, I normally find that lay testimony on property values, and I know you're not testifying, you're arguing, but any lay testimony on property values has to be supported by facts, and I haven't seen any facts regarding a diminution of property values as a result of this. So I mean, I'm not going to consider property values, but there's a lot more to consider here, of course. I have one final question for you, Ms. Ackar. Your Exhibit 2 is a map that shows it looks like property boundaries for lots in the area, and you also have the it looks like the 10 examples of the photographs that you selected for the record, for supplementing the record. At the bottom of that exhibit, there is it cites that this is from the city of Albuquerque. Does this exhibit come from the city of Albuquerque's mapping system?
This is from their Aegis website. It's just the easiest way to come up with a plat and location report of all the surrounding lots, because they access the Bernalillo County records and you can see the lot boundaries for each of the properties. It was just the easiest. When you just look at a bunch of pictures, you can't at least I can't wrap my head around where they all are. This is just a way to indicate, because we supplied pictures for the record, and we just wanted to be able to show you where those pictures are in the big scheme of things. Many of the properties that we have are well within that 330 feet of the property. But we also we understand that because this is a corner lot, some of those properties, it is specific because it's a corner lot, but we wanted to demonstrate with pictures that even if you go to corner lots within the area of this home, a couple blocks up, a couple blocks down, no one else has a property like this. No one else has a fence that sticks out like this fence does.
Okay, so but now this Aegis map was not in the record before the ZHE, correct?
That's correct, and it is just to help you locate where these properties are, the photos we supplied.
Well, it does more than that. I mean, I'm looking at the legend at the lower left-hand corner, which is the distances, and from that legend, I can actually determine fairly accurately, probably within 2 or 3 feet, the distance of 330. I can determine it just by looking at it, at least for 2/3 of the difference between 255 and 509 on the right-hand side, which would be 339 total from zero. So it looks like I can determine what properties are within 339 feet roughly of Mr. Segura's lot. And I can tell you that it looks like there are approximately 40 to 50 lots. So 20% of that would be what, 8, 9 lots would have to meet the criteria of the 20% rule. Based on the evidence that I've seen, there's only 2 lots that would vaguely be considered to meet that criteria. And that would be roughly 2.2% or so. That's not 20%. So I thank you for this. What are you requesting? Are you requesting that I remand this back to the ZHE? Or are you requesting that I reverse the ZHE or recommend? And these are recommendations that I can only fulfill. Are you requesting a remand or a reversal?
A reversal.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, folks. Mr. Seguro, thank you. Mr. and Ms. Seguro, thank you so much. Mr. Gallegos, Ms. Agar, and Ms. Fella, Ms. Patton Quintana, thank you all. Mr. Moya, we'll go off the record now, unless there's anything more.
I need one quick spelling.
Yes,
Walter Gallegos, could you spell that for me, please?
Walter.
And your last name?
Gallegos is Gallegos.
Thank you so much.
okay. And just to clarify, I have 15 days to draft a report for the city council. It's only a recommendation. The city council can ignore my recommendation and do what they want with the case. When I draft my recommendation, I send it to the city of Albuquerque, and I will send it to Mr. and Ms. Seguro, as well as Ms. Agar and Mr. Gallegos simultaneously in a single email, okay? So that everybody will have a copy of the recommendation to the city council. Thank you, folks, so much. Enjoy your day and your weekend. Bye-bye.
Much.
Thank you.
Thank you, bye.
Mr. Chavez, can I ask a question?
Hold on. Yes, sir.
On the,
We are still on the record, Ms. Fella. Yes.
on the buffer map that they sent me, it says 29 properties, not 35 or beyond that. So it's got 20% of 29 properties.
29 properties. And you're referring to the buffer map that was submitted in the record to the ZHE?
Correct.
Okay. I will consider that, sir. I didn't see that. Where is it? Let me look at that now. It's just, I want to make sure
On page 48 of the appeal packet.
page 48. Okay, so they sent you this map and indicated to you, let's see, 29 properties. I see. You are correct. And you didn't type this. This is something that was typed by the city planner at the city?
That's the paperwork they sent me. Correct.
Okay. And what about the handwritten thing, words in there? Did you put that in or did they?
I put those in just to, so you know what the addresses were.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. It certainly helps me. Thank you so much, folks. Ms. Agar, do you have any questions regarding what Mr. Segura just testified to?
No, you're on. No,
Okay,
Mr. Chavez.
thank you so much. Let's go off the record. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.